Thank you once again for the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. And it's been a pleasure meeting all of you and seeing so many familiar faces. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If that is work in progress, imagine when it's finished. Thank you, Arvind, for that very refreshing, honest, and wonderful raconteur style of telling us about you and your very deep relationship with alma mater, Don Bosco. It just strikes me, I was telling Mahendran, that apparently down the generations, the earlier generations in Don Bosco have missed out on a lot. Sex education classes? And interculturals, where you can go and contest with women and learn what to do and what not to do with girls. This, as Mahendran said, we were left to go and find out for ourselves what it's all about. I remember, in college, in school, once we were all at the window on the first floor, and a group of girls had come in for, I don't know for what, fairly attractive girls. A whole lot of us at the window, between periods. And then the next period happened to be Salvadore's. And I think I was at the window, glued to the window looking at this like all I thought my friends. And apparently Salvadore had come and the others had noticed, had gone back and sat. And I was there. So there was this tap on my shoulder and said, "That's enough, Mr. Menon." At this rate, Father Alexander, you're going to become a co-educational school very soon. I mean, every year you're diluting the standards. Very unfair. Anyway, to move on now to our next. Thank you, Arvind, for that wonderful, I think, intervention. We have another very, very, shall we say, trailblazing industrialist who is a leading light in his own sector. That's the insurance sector. And we've just heard about the government allowing 49% FDI in insurance. I don't know whether this warms the cockles of his heart or he's not happy about it. Perhaps he'll mention that as we go along. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Apollo Munich Health Insurance. And he's been steering this company since 2009. He's had an enviable track record of 26 years in the profession, in the industry per se. He was earlier, like Arvind said, like Keshav said, with ITC, perhaps they were colleagues together. And then he was with Continental Grain, with the RSA Group. He's worked in several parts of the world, in Europe, in the Middle East, in other parts of Asia, in New Zealand. And like Keshav, again, he's a chartered accountant. And it's my distinct pleasure to invite Antony Jacob.
Thank you, Shashi. You talked about sex education and intercultural thing, and I was reminded, as you said, the number of attempts I made on behalf of some of my friends here to try and get Ludraj to combine the Church Park tuition class with the Don Bosco class. Never succeeded. Never did I succeed. But as you said, it was success because I keep trying again and again on many other similar things, Arvind. Okay. What Shashi did was give a bit of a formal introduction or introduced me, and I'm sure the office sent it and he said what he had to say. But what I thought I'll do is talk about the real Antony and Don Bosco. He said all the nice things. But what Shashi didn't tell you was that I was one of the few, probably one of the few here who studied in Don Bosco right from LKG right up to the 11th standard. Continues. I was number 4 in a family of 5 siblings, and I have a reason for saying this, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I was much more interested in sports and games than what happened inside the classrooms. And I can tell you, I was amongst the distinguished few who got into trouble with almost all of my teachers right from LKG to 11th, and I can tell you a few more. So much so that Dad got so much fed up of attending the parent-teacher meetings and listening to complaints and complaints, and then he started giving that responsibility to my poor mom, who filled in very, very nicely, and mom and I had a great relationship. And finally, what Shashi didn't say to you was my report card in the school academics, not the sports and games, was at best average. And that was true. That was true me. But why am I saying this standing before you? Because I stand here saying this with great pride and a sense of gratitude for Don Bosco for having taken me through this schooling years. And I think that's contributed significantly in terms of some of what I've achieved. And I must add to what some of the earlier speakers said, that I really haven't achieved as much as many of you have achieved, but I'm absolutely delighted to have got this opportunity. So thank you for the alumni and the past pupils and Prakash to bring me here. So the reasons why I said I sort of gave my personal intro was it taught me quite a bit, and the way I'm going to do it, my 8 minutes balance, is the way I'm going to do it is talk about some of what I went through in school and how it didn't make sense at that point of time, but it did make sense post leaving school, and how it draws very good memories and how I've used it to my advantage. And the second half is I was asked to speak about secrets to my success. And so I thought the second half is I'll relate to some of my corporate and professional life and how I again relate to the happenings in school. So difficult days is what I would say in school, which I had. But what did it do to me? To me, it sort of lit up a fire in me. It sort of gave me a burning desire to succeed, because I wasn't. So I didn't have the greatest of report cards. It sort of lit a fire in me that I needed to succeed, and particularly if it was a report card in a school, it was a report card at home. Family of 5 siblings, I said, and I was 4th, and in terms of ranking at home, I was again at the bottom of the list. But what it really did was, because of the competitive nature and a lot of things which happened in school, which was competing with each other and comparing and sharing, it sort of lit a very burning desire in me that I need to pick up something in terms of what are my strengths and what do you capitalize on. And naturally, it wasn't academics which was my strength. So I started focusing on things which I could do well, and that was what led me to the sports and games aspect. And in the sports and games, there was plenty of opportunities, and Don Bosco had this outstanding facilities. We heard about the cricket, and we heard volleyball, and we heard all what's happening outside, and in terms of cricket happening before 9 o'clock and during lunch breaks. I must say I was very, very participative of that. What it really helped me was to work and sort of get together in teams and to see what winning teams would be. And I think that was extremely useful. While it came as a default option in school, because I was spent most of the time, I do think it meant a lot in terms of, as you set out on a professional journey, in terms of what teamwork is and what it is to succeed. And again, in terms of spending more time outside on the compound or in the cricket field or the volleyball or basketball or table tennis also gave opportunities. And I think Don Bosco is fantastic in that way, because if I recollect right, we had 4 house captains, we had cricket captains in each class and each section, and volleyball and basketball. So there was ample opportunities in terms of taking up leadership positions, and that's something which I really cherish. Something which really made me, use that opportunity, and things like, I did participate, and I did become, the captain of the cricket team and B team, not the A team, during Kannan's time, as well as it sort of molded me in terms of what leadership was, and didn't make sense at that point of time. And as I said, it came but as you went into professional career, you understood that leadership doesn't come overnight, and leadership comes over a period of time with experience. Goes back to the school in terms of the sports and games. The other thing which I relate quite a bit into school is being what I was, and some of which I said, getting into trouble. I did take a hell of a lot of risks, and risks was not getting hit on the knuckles, and it used to pain. But I must say, the risk-taking ability came naturally to me right in school. Managed to understand my own capabilities, that I manage quite risk. I don't know whether there's this connection between risk and insurance, Shashi, here. There seems to be, because I've ended up in insurance. But that's again something which came quite naturally. And as somebody else said, I think YG said that, you know, he had the tag of jumping over the wall, and I think after him, maybe I did get the same sort of a tag. And sort of risk-taking abilities was something which, again, I learned in school, not necessarily the right way at that point of time, but over a period of time, it did tell me, when I related some of what I actually did post-school, post-college, and post-education, I went back into some of the things which I did in school and said, hey, this is something which was sort of natural to me during the early days at school. Moving on from school was college, Loyola, and then I did my chartered accountancy, and then, like Keshav, I joined ITC. Now, I'm moving on to the professional career, and some of the learnings which helped me do some of, or sort of helped me achieve some of what I've done so far. So one of the things which Don Bosco taught me was, mind you, LKG to 11th standard, and I sort of took advantage of the fact that a good grounding was absolutely necessary, and I had that opportunity in Don Bosco in terms of grounding, and sort of cherished that. And one of the things which I wanted to do when I finished my education was to choose the right company. So I did have offers, a few offers in Chennai as well as ITC, and some of the local offers were actually, in fact, much more, from a monetary point of view, was better than the ITC. But being a risk taker, and Calcutta is a place I have never been to prior to my first job, I've never seen, I only heard about Calcutta those days, but was willing to take that risk into completely going into a new territory, first time away from home. We've never lived away from Chennai in my entire childhood, so it was a big risk which I was taking, but Don Bosco actually taught me that risk-taking ability, and I sort of moved in there, and I found that was a game-changing experience. You went into Calcutta at a time, 1986, when you had people who would be striking like 370 days out of 365, and you had people who worked 25 hours out of 24. You had two extremes. Fortunately, I had the opportunity of working with ITC, an outstanding company then, and I would say even now, a grounding which I think was so very, very important when I chose to take a professional career. I know many of you are entrepreneurs, but I decided that I would go into a professional career, and I said a good grounding was an absolute must. For me, the early days in ITC gave me that platform. And I can tell you the moments I cherished in terms of how do you manage difficult situations, how do you manage people, cultural issues, working in difficult physical geographies like, as I said, unionism and a variety of things happening, and yet wanting to grow as fast as you could and have an 80% market share as Keshav mentioned. I worked with ITC for 8 years and moved around several locations. And for personal reasons, I wanted to move location from Hyderabad into Delhi. And this was another game-changing moment, which I could relate to some of my Don Bosco experience. I decided to join a company called Continental Grain. And here I was, before that, ITC, completely spoiled, really cushioned out in terms of secretarial help and peons and drivers and cars and air conditioning and all the comforts you could think of those days. Into Continental Grain, I didn't know what I was getting into. And here is what I call adaptability to change, which Don Bosco has taught me, right? So I moved into Continental Grain. Salary was the best thing, dollar salary, tax-free. But from such a cushy environment, I landed up in Delhi in an office where I didn't realize on the first day that my role, apart from CFO, was to be the security guard, to be the telex operator, to be the cafeteria boy, to be the the guy who sends out, who does the filing, to be the cashier. It was an MNC, but an MNC which is much smaller operation, which meant that you needed to change from a completely comfort zone into a jack of all trades. To me, that was again a game-changing experience, adaptability to change. And here I was wondering whether I made a mistake. Well, should I be going back to ITC? And I'm not sure whether they were taking me, but adaptability to change was something which I reflected on. Being from LKG to 11th standard, I had seen so many changes in the class. I had seen so many students come into class, students from different nationalities, including some students from Poland, if I recollect right. I don't know if they were classmates of yours, but I remember we had even foreign students, and I found how easily they adapted within weeks. So I said to myself, if they could, maybe I can. This was at a time when the whole nation was changing with a whole lot of MNCs. So here I had a great experience with ITC, a terrific brand and a terrific MNC, and then I had another experience with a completely different MNC, which you had to do everything, jack of all trades. And I said to myself, this is a great opportunity, for me to sort of put my hand up if new MNCs were coming for a startup with a good brand as well as. So that took me actually to the insurance world, and insurance world actually, Royal was an accident, and that's again a learning experience in terms of an ability to spot opportunities, something which again Don Bosco taught me in terms of spot an opportunity and grab it. I had an accident in Continental Grain. Although I knew, it was quite a nasty accident in a Maruti Esteem car. Although I knew the CEO of the then insurance company, it took me 6 months to get part of the claim paid on a reimbursement basis. The car was stuck for almost 3 months in the garage. But the issue here was, it was such pathetic in terms of the insurance industry at that point of time. Hopefully you guys feel it's much better now. But at that point of time, it was so pathetic that I went through it as a customer. And for me, spotting an opportunity, which Don Bosco taught me, was, I said to myself, if this was the state of the insurance industry in 1994, 95, one could have easily said this is a lousy industry. This is absolute crap to be looking at it or to be working in it. But I actually took a contrarian view, which Don Bosco taught me at many a time in class, to take a contrarian view. I said, if this is the state of the industry, if it is so pathetic, there must be a big opportunity here for us to do something about it. And that's actually how I got into insurance, in terms of looking and having spotted something which needed to be badly shaken up. And so I actually joined the insurance industry much before the opening up, and it was 26%, as she mentioned. And I happened to work for Royal Insurance those days, and managed to get the first license, first general insurance license, and ran Royal Sundaram in this very city. So a lot of learnings in terms of the corporate world. Today, as I said, as I was introduced, I run another company, which is Apollo Munich Health Insurance, a company which runs just health insurance, a joint venture between the Apollo Group as well as Munich Re. We are fairly decent growth. We're about 1,000 crores end of this year with a few million customers. But the great thing is, for me, success in this is not those numbers, but success is when any of you or any of my few million customers come to me and say, Anthony, your policy worked, I used your policy to have our healthcare financing done. For me, that is success. It's not about 1,000 crores or in terms of profitability or ROE. It is, for me, what matters is, do I have a solution to the millions or 1.3 billion people in the country? And I'm very proud to say that with all of what I learned with Don Bosco and the education and friends and family, we do have a company now which services the most underserved population. I don't know if people have traveled to the northeast population. Apollo Munich actually issues policies and services people in the remotest of remotest villages in Nagaland and Mizoram, as well as to the richest of people in Delhi, Bombay, and Chennai. So we are there across the spectrum, and I do owe all of this, in terms of the impact I'm hopefully making to the Indian population, to Don Bosco. So I'd like to conclude by saying a big thank you to firstly to the teachers and the alumni of Don Bosco, and all of you to have patiently listened to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Antony. And the moral of the story is, if you are in Don Bosco, and that's the operative word, if you can be an average student and yet head the sector that you get into. But if you're in any other school, you need to really work your ass off. I mean, so I think that's really the moral of the story. But jokes aside, What an enviable track record there. What a wonderful track record and in the realm of health insurance. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, "Give me health and a day, and I will make the pomp of emperors ridiculous." So health is so crucial, and health insurance is so crucial, especially when it comes to your aid in times of need, not just in terms of paying premiums on time. Thank you, Mr. Antony. And now we will move on we just have 3 more speakers. In 1909, a famous philosopher, a bit of a strange man in many ways, but he wrote what's called the Manifesto of Speed. And he declared in that manifesto, "We declare that the splendor of the world has been enriched by a new beauty, the beauty of speed." And we have here a very young person who is testimony to the beauty of speed, who represents speed, who enjoys speed, who exults in speed, who personifies, if you like, speed. He normally takes corners, you know. He turns corners at 250 kilometers an hour. So you can imagine what happens if you give him a straight stretch of road. And I think I heard him in some TED talk mention that when a pilot lands a plane, that's about, you know, he cruises at about 250 kilometers an hour or something. But then that's on a straight stretch. That's the speed he uses to turn a corner. I'm really glad that we have the traffic jam we do in Chennai. If you give this man a straight stretch of road, imagine what will happen. He just take off. So that's Arman Ibrahim from karting to Formula LGB champion in 2004, Formula BMW Asia for 2005 season. He represented India in the A1 Grand Prix Championships, then the British Formula Renault Championships. And I think the best part